New year, new you! While the phrase is outdated, the strategy of promoting fitness, lifestyle, and health changes during the beginning of the year is alive and well. Today, we're popping the sadly metaphorical champagne and digging into New Year's resolutions. This episode is brought to you by Resolution, the headset designed especially for Q1 in the office. Simply pop the device on, and it will automatically filter out the droning voices of your coworkers bragging about their New Year's commitments. Resolution, for people who know those goals won't last long. Welcome to an almost productive coffee break. The same bold flavor of our original podcast brew in a single shot. Perfect for those times when you need a quick marketing pick-me-up.
I'm Sean.
I'm Julie.
And I'm Addie. And we're all marketing professionals at New Boston Creative Group in Manhattan, Kansas. Okay, thank you to that sponsor. So first, getting started on the New Year's resolution episode, I wanted to ask y'all what resolutions you've set in the past, or maybe what was your most recent resolution?
I'm really bad at this in that I like the concept of thinking about the past year, what I want the future to be, and then that's as far as I make it. And any actionable items I don't make, and I just think and worry. So it's just a lot of anxiety, really, is what I lead up to, and then I stop.
I would almost argue that that's the most important part. Like, the reflection is
all right,
the
perfect.
good part.
Then I'm doing
and
great.
Then, you can do with that what you will. So, Sean, I'm going to let you off the hook there.
Wonderful.
For a couple years, I was big into, I don't do resolutions, I do goals. And I was focused more on like habits. I know. But lately, I'm just letting my life fall apart. No, I will say my husband and I have a tradition that I really like. Toward the end of the year, we look back on the year that's passed and talk about like highs, whether it was fun things that we did or things that we accomplished. And then we talk about what we want to focus on in the coming year. So it's not a SMART goal. There's nothing official about it. But like Sean does, it's just a really nice chance for us to collectively reflect and think ahead. And sometimes it's really interesting because I save these. I have these going back to like 2009 or something. And when we do our reflection on what happened the year before, like, we're not checking this list monthly by any stretch, but it's pretty interesting how much we do just having planted the seed that we incorporate into our lives. So I like that tradition.
I love that. I might have to steal that, Julie. That's awesome. And similar to both of you, we don't really do resolutions, but actually, Julie, we do exactly that. But on each of our birthdays, we kind of reflect on how did the last year go? What do we want for this next year? So not New Year's specific, but new year of our life on this planet specific.
Yeah, that's good. I like that.
Yeah, that's good.
It's more personal.
Yeah, definitely. So that's kind of fun. So a couple stats here. According to a survey conducted by Forbes, 62% of respondents felt pressured to set a New Year's resolution. So this is definitely still alive and well in the zeitgeist. And I thought it would be kind of fun. Do y'all want to guess what some of the top resolutions included? I have the top 4 here.
Lose weight is probably one of them, or some form of that. Get healthy. I don't know if that would be merged into one.
So weight loss is 4th. 34% of people reported that as being a resolution.
Interesting. I would have thought that would be number 1 because we hear I feel like the majority of our messaging we hear about that.
To that point, Julie, they did separate fitness. So I'll give you both that one as well. Improved fitness was the number 1. That was 48% of respondents.
Yeah, because I wondered when I said like get healthy if that was part of fitness, or maybe eating better is a separate one.
I think that was a separate one, but it did not make the top 4.
Okay.
You knocked 2 out of the park with 1 answer, Sean. Incredible. When do we know when this survey was?
This was, I believe, within the last 2 years. I usually don't use them if they're older than like 2022.
Okay, because I know dry January has become a thing for people, so I wonder if stopping drinking is one, although I think it's usually a month, not a whole year resolution. The other one you don't hear about, but I feel like in a new year people would want to make more money.
Ding, 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 ding. That was number 2, improved finances. Great job, Julie. And drinking less was on the list, but it did not make the top 4. I will just give you number 3 was the only one that y'all didn't get, and that was improved mental health at 36%. So I thought that was kind of interesting to see as well. I would argue that's probably wrapped up into health as a whole, but they separated those. So
yeah, it's interesting. A lot of them are based on that mental health, get fit, lose weight. And there's, like I said, there's even more that didn't make the top 4 that are also around that message.
Definitely. And that kind of speaks to why marketing around those things like for gyms and mental health services really spike in the first quarter. So another interesting fact here that I thought I would point out was that the same survey found that the average resolution lasts just about 3.5 months. So people kind of crest into the spring and then they call it quits.
That's longer than I even thought. Yeah.
Interesting. What would you have guessed?
I feel like years ago, and I don't have a specific survey to cite, but I feel like 6 weeks was a figure that stuck with me for a while.
Yeah, I like the idea of, you get through January, but then you're into February and you're just, nope, I can't do it anymore. Things,
made it 1 month.
Right. My life is too busy, whatever happens, but you made it that first month. And so that's probably enough to feel like you did something, but long enough that you're sick of it.
Yeah, I mean, 3 months, that's impressive.
It is impressive. That also surprised me because I would imagine that by that point the habit had formed. So it would be almost harder to quit at that point, but the data says otherwise.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So I mentioned a couple broad industries that typically see their marketing efforts spike around this time. But do you have any specific brands that you think of when you think about New Year's marketing?
It's mostly categories, like you mentioned, gyms.
Yeah, I agree that it's more categories, and I have specific brands that pop into my head when I think of New Year's.
Definitely. I think that makes sense. I wanted to highlight a couple campaigns. So in 2023 Equinox, they used the slogan, "We don't speak January," and didn't accept new members on January 1st. They decided they didn't want people who weren't going to be around to commit to the full year, so they didn't accept new memberships on January 1st.
Oh, interesting.
Reactions to that?
Well, I would hope they'd be closed on January 1st. So
No.
maybe that would have been more impactful if they hadn't accepted them on January 2nd.
Perhaps. They were open. They are open on January 1st. So it was a day of business for them, I guess, that otherwise they would have accepted.
Yeah, my initial reaction is, what benefit did they gain from that? Because me as an outsider, I don't know if I'm necessarily giving them a lot of credit for that. Like, oh, that you decided not to accept registrations. Like, do I care enough to think anything of your business? And if I'm someone who tried to sign up, I'm probably just angry. Like, so I don't know what they, what they actually.
You'd give up on your resolution.
Yeah.
Oh man, I can't start it today. Forget it.
What purpose that served for them, other than hope maybe they thought they would just go viral or something and get some credibility that way.
Yeah, those are great points, Sean. And they definitely faced some backlash for that, of being non-inclusive and not accepting to people earlier on in their fitness journey. So that was an interesting example. I don't think that their business was necessarily hurt by that decision, but it definitely caused some conversation. So another one that I wanted to highlight here. Okay, we have two more. So Duolingo, the language learning app that we discussed in a previous episode about unhinged social media personalities, they only offer discounts on their premium subscriptions in January. So they are really making an effort to boost those sales in Q1. Thoughts about that tactic?
Honestly, anything that shakes up the health and wellness sphere at that time of year, I would welcome, because we are so inundated by that industry. That I feel like that's actually cool to build around New Year. Hey, you've got a resolution to learn a new language. Or if you didn't and you saw that, you might be like, hey, yeah, I like that. Sign me up.
Yeah, I agree. That looks, to me, it seems like they took a good opportunity of like, yeah, a resolution could be this, and then enticing you to maybe try it out that you may not otherwise. And then they've got you, potentially they got you hooked.
Definitely. I like that one. And they've been doing it for a couple years now. So I think that people kind of look forward to it. If they're thinking about it, maybe they earmark January. So I think that's been a successful endeavor. Similarly, Talkspace, the remote health, the remote mental health app, has partnered with Michael Phelps and other celebrities to promote their online therapy service. That started in 2018, and they always have the biggest push of promo around the first year. I think that that's also been pretty effective for them. As we just read in that Forbes study, mental health has been a big push recently, a big highlight for folks. So I think that really reiterating their message of that back in 2018, even, they were kind of ahead of the curve. So thoughts on that strategy?
Yeah, that definitely was ahead of the curve, because I definitely think of that being just the last few years where that's really become a priority for everybody.
I like that strategy. Although I would almost say move it up to December, because that's when we are so stressed and overwhelmed. And it would be lovely to have that messaging introduced during that time of year. So in addition to cook, 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 buy, 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 you're also like, be happy, smile,
focus on yourself,
heal, set boundaries.
Right, that they could kind of roll that from December into January.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that, Julie. Have either of you ever been influenced by a New Year's commercial or online ad?
Not that comes to mind.
Okay.
Yeah, not specific to the new year, because I kind of already have an idea of what I would respond to.
Me neither. So we, I think, are in the minority here. Not a very interesting question, but kind of interesting takeaway, right. I guess, that this sample size of 3 has yet to be influenced by any of that messaging.
I think it's because if you think about that, your top 4, mental health, losing weight, getting fit, and what was the other one? Finances. The 3 of us have like A+. We excel at all 4.
There's no room for improvement.
So we're not enticed by those right. things. You need to get something else that digs at our flaws, because those aren't it.
Yeah. Definitely not, none of the above. Exactly. Yeah, it's a good point, Sean. So smart.
I think too, sometimes a danger of working, well, not a danger, but working in marketing makes us see through some of the tactics and question the strategy or the intent behind them. And so we may be more critical or thoughtful when we are looking at ads versus just, oh yeah, hey, I think I need to go do that now.
Yeah, good point.
Absolutely. So many brands in the fitness, therapy, and finance space have their highest revenue and new user signups in that first quarter. But what about everybody else? How can those non-lifestyle or fitness brands capitalize on this time?
I think the Duolingo one was a good example of knowing that people are in an actionable state and playing into that by presenting an option or a discount or something to entice someone, knowing that they're looking for change, they're looking to do something, and maybe your option can fit into that potentially.
Agreed. Because at its core, it's about people wanting to improve their lives, right? And hopefully your business or organization is offering a product or service to make someone's life better. So framing it and looking at it in that way, I think would be effective. And we talked about this a little bit earlier, but having something different that's not the sea of health and wellness or weight loss or any of that is so refreshing. So I think there's a real opportunity for industries that don't fall in the main categories that we hear.
Julie brought up the point with that one example that you can also start earlier. So you could preempt New Year's in December by tying into some sort of resolution. Or you also see companies start advertising in February with like anti-resolutions, or like your resolution has that first one failed. Now try time to re-up and do a new one. So almost like seeing where that crest is going to happen and then trying to jump into like, oh, we're now post-resolution something.
Definitely. And this is very related to that, Sean, is if you can't find your way into the resolution space, maybe dial back during January and February because it is so loud, it is so busy and crazy with all of this messaging that maybe it's better for you to, cut back on your spending and then increase it later in the year when you think it will be more successful and people may be less
inundated.
Attacked.
Right.
Inundated. That's the word.
More
less
receptive.
Inundated.
Right.
Yes. More receptive. All of those things.
Yeah. Last year, our gym did a special promotion, I think starting after Thanksgiving or November, December, where if you came a certain number of times, they called it the 12 days of Fitmas. That's what it was. Cute. And if you came a certain number of times in those final weeks, you were entered to win a drawing. I didn't care about getting a t-shirt or a hat, but I thought what a great motivator to keep your current members coming at a time when so many people, it's falling by the wayside. So to, when you think about how do you stay healthy, you're taking care of yourself year round. And it really helped hit that message.
That's a great point. And that's also a great way for the gym to ensure that you stick with them instead of jumping ship and maybe considering a competitor. So anything you can do to kind of hone in on your existing customers during that time may be worth it as well. Thank you for listening to this episode of Almost Productive. Before we go, we'd like to give a shout out to our producers Nick and Molly who work behind the scenes to make this podcast possible. If you'd like to learn more about what we do at New Boston Creative Group, you can reach us at newbostoncreative.com. You can also follow us on social media at New Boston Creative on Instagram and New Boston Creative Group on Facebook and LinkedIn. If you liked this episode, please like, follow, subscribe, leave a review, and share the podcast with your friends. And if you didn't like the show, feel free to recommend us to your enemies. Tune in next time for more office shenanigans, thoughts on trending topics, and marketing adjacent insights. Until next time, we hope you have a productive day.